So here it is, something completely different to the previous one we just checked out. So this one's from Baltany. This isn't actually the one I was expecting to get in for review, so I had to do a little bit of research to check what this was. Turns out it's actually an homage of the first Rolex Oyster, which came out in 1926. So pretty interesting. Apparently they also had another version of this, because this one is a Quartz. So got that pretty slim case profile there, but I think they also do an automatic. If I can find that, I'll probably leave a link to both of them in the description if you want to check it out. This is going to be a pretty polarising one, I think. I know a lot of people don't like these kind of dials, with the Roman numerals. I don't mind them now and then. We've also got some really nice blued hands on this as well. And they are actually blued, not just painted blue. And there's a couple of different dial options for this, so I don't know how well this is going to come up on camera. There is actually an ever so slight vertical brushing on this silver dial. I think the other one they do is like a cream kind of vintage kind of look. But I do like this one. I do like that bezel detail as well, and the fact that it's mirrored on the bottom. It's a really nice touch, as you come to expect with Baltany. Just really nice finishing. It's a fully polished case. We've actually got a dome crystal there as well, which is actually sapphire. So it's a fully printed dial, nothing applied. And then we've got the kind of sunburst finished on that slightly recessed sub-second dial. And you can see that it is quartz, as I said. Got a really nice onion style crown as well. Not signed, but it is screw down. So it's an interesting case shape. So it is kind of square. And we've got a completely sterile case back, which is polished. So that's probably going to scratch up eventually if you're not too careful. I have actually had the sticker on it most of the time I've had it on, so I didn't want to get it scratched before doing this. And then we've got the standard kind of Baltany straps they use, vintage kind of leather style with the stitching and the branding on there. They are nice. Nice and supple, nice and soft, no issues there. So there's not really a lot else to say about this one, so let's get on to the dimensions. We've got a 36mm diameter, a 10.9mm thickness, 18mm lug width, 43.3 lug to lug. One interesting thing though, apparently, this has got 100 metre water resistance, which is interesting because obviously you're not going to be going swimming with this, but I guess it's handy to know that you don't need to worry about it getting wet. Obviously with it being a dress watch, we've got no loom, so I'm not going to do a loom shot, so let's get it on wrist and show you what it's like. So here it is on my 7-inch wrist. So as I said, really slim profile to that. If anything, the crystal's probably not that much thicker than the case. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, the movement in this is the VD78. So this is definitely something a bit different. And as I say, it's going to be one that you're probably going to either love or hate. I have to admit, it has actually grown on me the more I wear this. It's a really nice, well, vintage kind of style piece, based on that first Rolex Oyster. And I think they've done a really good job with it. As I say, I'm pretty sure they do a mechanical version, well, automatic version as well. If I can find that, I'll leave a link to both in the description. But let's get on to the next one. Next up, we've got the Guanqin 16199 version 2. So I never checked out the version 1 of this, so I'm not entirely sure what all of the differences are, but we'll go over some of them I actually know. So the first thing that struck me with this, probably quite subtle, you might not notice it, but in person, you can see it a bit better. We actually got, I don't really know how you describe it, kind of aged, textured, well not textured, aged kind of scratched looking finish on the dial, which is pretty interesting. I do actually quite like it. Oh, there you go, you can probably see it a little bit better than that angle. So you have little different finishes, I think, with different colours, but with this black one I've got, that's what it is. I think some of the others have got more of like a gradiated dial, like a green one, I think they're between black and green. So if you're not keen on this one, you might find something else you do like. So speaking of the rest of the dial, we've got printed text, the Guanqin, the logo below that, automatic at the bottom, applied indices, date wheel at 3 o'clock, date window, sorry, with that Cyclops, which is magnifying really well. Then when it comes to the bezel, I'll zoom back out, we've got a 90 click bezel on this, and it is ceramic. It's a little on the light side. Some of the clicks aren't the most defined, and there is a little bit of play. So it's not the best of bezels, but it's not the worst either. And it does line up, but again, as I say, there is a little bit of play in it, so if it doesn't quite line up, you can move it ever so slightly either way. When it comes to the rest of the watch, it's pretty simple. We've got polished sides, which again, a bit of a fingerprint magnet. Brushed top to match the brushed bracelet, which again, polished on the sides. Got a similar kind of clasp to Pagani's, but again, we've got the G for Guanqin. Sorry about that if you just heard that bike going past. Milled clasp, sterile case back. We've got signed crown as well there, which is screw down, and we've got the usual NH35 in this. When it comes to the water resistance, we've got 100 meters. We've also got sapphire crystal. It is sapphire crystal, flat sapphire, and also a sapphire bezel. So that is nice. You don't need to worry about that getting scratched either. Oh, I forgot to mention as well, we've also got screw links on that bracelet, which is always my preference. So let's get on to the dimensions. So we've got 41mm diameter, got 12.8mm thick, 20mm lug width, and 47.8mm lug to lug. But we have got male end links, so if you measure end link to end link, that's more like 52.3, but you can see they do curve down pretty quickly. So I'll show you what it's like on wrist in a minute. Before we do that, let's check out what the loom's like. So you can see we've got a bit there already, but let's charge it up, give it a proper chance. So while we're waiting for this, let's quickly talk about the differences on this. So one of which you will see in a second, that is the loom on the bezel. Apparently the previous version didn't have a loomed bezel, whereas this one does. And also, I think they might have changed the bracelet. I think the previous one had a butterfly clasp, which I know sounds a bit odd. I think that's probably why they changed it. And there we go. So there's what the loom is like. So pretty impressive initially. Got a mixture of, I don't know if it's BGW9. You've got like a blue kind of colour on the bezel and the hands, and then more of like a C3 kind of glow on the indices. So you're probably going to notice fairly quickly with this that the indices, that green, that does fade pretty quickly, which isn't ideal. But obviously if you can have one thing fade before the other, you want those hands to stick around longer. And thankfully with this they do. The hands and the bezel are actually really good. They're not going to last you all night, but they're going to last you a good few hours at least. Whereas those indices, they're going to fade pretty quickly. So, not too bad. Not great. Well, for the hands and the bezel. But it's an interesting mix. I would have preferred if they'd just done it all that blue, to be honest. I think it's far better. So, all I'll have to do now is show you what it's like on wrist. So, this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. I think it does look pretty good. And you can see what I'm saying about those end links now, because they drop down pretty much straight away. Just conform to wrist nicely still. So you're not going to worry about that if you've got a 7-inch wrist at least. Obviously if it's smaller, that could be an issue for you maybe. But I think it does wear well. I do like the polished details on that bezel as well, just catching the light. When it comes to this clasp, it's the same kind of issue with the Pagani ones. If you need to use the micro adjust, it is a little bit fiddly. You need a really small tool, but other than that, can't really fault it. And as for the rest of the watch, I'd say it's okay. It needs a few little tweaks to improve it, perhaps a version 3. Just sort out that loom, mismatch between the indices and the hands, improve that bezel action slightly, but otherwise, other than that, not too bad. But on to the next one. Next up, we've got the Feice FM301. So this is a Bauhaus style watch, but yes, it is square. I know some people aren't going to like that. That's going to put some people off straight away. So I guess the question is it hip to be square? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Anyway, I've reviewed like a similar one to this before, the round one. But there are actually a couple of little differences other than the shape, which I'll touch on when we get into this a little bit more. So before we get into all that, let's go over the dimensions because they are quite interesting. So we've got a diameter of 34.1, which is probably the smallest watch I've reviewed on the channel, I think. Then we've got a thickness of 10.5, lug width of 20, and then the lug to lug is coming in at 54.2. So some really compact dimensions there. It's a pretty simple finish, as you'd expect with a Bauhaus style watch. It's mainly polished. I think it might all be polished. We have got the logo on the crown there. You can also see the little bit underneath where it says sapphire crystal on that edge of the case back. Also says stainless steel, 30 water resistant, and then the model number. And we've got that really nice open heart kind of thing on the back. So the movement in this is the Seagull ST1731. You can also see we've got the quick release strap, which is nice. Feice branding. It's a simple strap, but it's nice and comfortable. And then we've got the Feice branding on the buckle as well. They also do this with a brown strap, I think, too. If you're not keen on the black one, which does actually look quite nice, the brown one, to be fair. So let's get a quick zoom in on that dial, quickly talk about it. So pretty simple, all printed, nothing applied, date window at the 3. Got a blue colour on the hands. I don't think they're actually blued, I could be wrong there, but they look a little too metallic, I think. I think they might be painted. Got that recessed subdial at the 6 for the second hand. All pretty simple, as you'd expect. It's just a push-pull crown. And obviously there's no loom, so we're not going to be talking about that. So there's not really a lot else to talk about with this. The lugs are actually quite interesting. A little bit of detailing on them. But as I say, it is mainly pretty simple finish to that case. Fully polished. A few little detail bits on the end of those lugs. So let's show you what it's like on wrist. So here it is on my 7-inch wrist. Obviously it wears really well with those really compact dimensions despite being square. And I do really like it, just because it's something a bit different. Maybe that's just because I've got so many watches now, and I'm just looking for stuff that's a little bit more quirky, a little bit different. Let me know what you think. Do you like square watches? Do you like this square watch? I like the little polished chamfer details around the edge, just break up that squareness a little bit, just soften it ever so slightly. Little details on those lugs. So it's not completely plain or completely square. Yeah, I've done a little bit to break it up. Anyway, let's get on to the last watch. And here it is. This really beautiful piece from Merkur / Fanzhai. It's a 70s classic crossline. I think that's what the name is. Couldn't really find anything on the listing, but I think that's what it is. But either way, it is a beautiful piece. So this one I have here, this is what they call the, I think it's rose red dial. They also do a salmon one. I think if you're not keen on them, they do have a slightly more normal kind of colour. But when I saw this one, I just had to get it. It's a really good looking piece. So we've got applied indices, and you can see we've got that cross kind of look in the middle, the lines. And we've got, I don't know what that says, I'm not going to be even trying to hazard a guess at what that says. I'm assuming one of them says Fanzhai somewhere. But if anyone does know what that says, let me know down in the comments. But I do like the fact that they've gone with the actual Chinese text. They haven't tried to westernize it. I do appreciate that. And it's a really nice crystal on it as well. Top hat style. It is only mineral crystal, unfortunately, not a sapphire, which would have obviously been better, but with it being a vintage kind of style piece, I can kind of understand why they didn't. Got the sign crown there. Really nice curve to that case. You can see again, we've got polished sides, so it does gather fingerprints a bit. Brushed on top to match the bracelet, which is a beads of rice style bracelet. These aren't all individual pieces, it's actually a 3-link, but either way, really nicely finished and really comfortable still. Brushed outer links, polished inner links. Butterfly clasp, double pushers. We've actually got a really nice case back as well. We've got the Great Wall there, or at least I'm assuming it's the Great Wall. And then we've got some bits around the outside. I'm not going to try and pronounce all that because I'll probably butcher it. But again, I do like that case back a lot. They could have just left it plain, but the fact that they've added something on there, and again, kept it in with the Chinese of origins of the watch. Not tried to westernize it, not hiding where it's from. Do appreciate that. Just got push pins on the links. So the water resistance on this apparently is 50 meters. Not that that's really going to matter because it's a dress watch. When it comes to the movement, it's actually a mechanical watch, this one. So hand wind only, no rotor. So the movement is an MO1D, which apparently is one of their own movements, or it's a movement they customised themselves anyway. Can't really find much information about it. I think I've had it in one of their watches. Might leave a link to that video because I think I might have managed to find something detail-wise about that. If not, if anybody does know, just let us know down in the comments. I do like this one a lot. Out of all the ones I've probably shown you, this is probably one of my favourites. It's definitely been on wrist quite a bit. Obviously we've got no loom on this, so I'm not going to be doing a loom shot, but let's check out what the dimensions are. So we've got a diameter of 38mm, thickness of 12.1, lug width of 20, and then the all-important lug-to-lug is 45.5. So really nice compact dimensions. Again, really nice curvature to that case. So it will help conform to wrist nicely, which I'll show you now. So this is what it looks like on my 7-inch wrist. And as I say, it curves so nicely around your wrist, contours around beautifully. Wears really, really well. And with that vidIQ style bracelet, again, really comfortable. I managed to get a really good sizing, despite it being obviously no micro adjust. They're fairly small links, so I think you should be alright. But it is a gorgeous dial. And that crystal just adds a little bit of distortion as well. I do really, really like this. The way the light catches those polished indices and that polished section on the vidIQ. Really good looking piece. But let me know, are you interested in this? Do you like this kind of style of watch? I know dress watches aren't all that popular. People tend to prefer divers. As you can probably tell from this video, I'm going through a bit of a dress watch phase. So hopefully you've liked some of these, not ones that you've seen all that often. Try and mix it up a little bit, bring you some different stuff. So hopefully you appreciate that. And again, if you're interested in any of these watches, all the links are down in the description. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.